So I was so triggered I had to come out of my slumber to make a video on Pirate Software's response to Stop Killing Games. Not even necessarily about the initiative, just his horrible dogshit fucking arguments. So we're gonna go one by one.
Let's discuss the most common requirement of the initiative, which is games have to be left in a functional, playable state. Now, what happens if that game is a online-only live service game? Well, if you want that to stay in a functional, playable state, that means the devs have to release either server binaries or somehow carve off the game to be a single-player experience.
Or you could just build out some implementations of having people host their own private servers like many games have before. It's not really that complicated of a thing to do.
Now, many of you are requesting, yes, I should get the server binaries so that I can go and make private servers for this. But that doesn't make a lot of sense in the real world. And the reason why is because it leaves developers open to abuse. So let's explore that a little bit. Let's say that you made your own video game, and you made a live service game. Maybe it's an MMO, maybe it's something else, right? And let's say that I want to monetize that game, but you don't allow monetization of the game by any other party. This makes sense because most creators don't allow for that. You can't just take someone else's art and profit off of it.
I mean, too bad, so sad, I don't know. If you're incapable of monetizing your game through above-the-board means and giving people access to your game in a way that doesn't limit them to whenever you decide to cut support, if that's a problem for you to monetize that game, then sucks to suck. Go do something else. I don't know what to tell you. You should be more than capable. If there's a game that people like playing, you should be more than capable of monetizing that game. Many other companies have done this with online games without being predatory, without being fucking cringe about it.
So then I go, well, how am I going to force you to do this? Under this initiative, you would have to release the server binaries or keep the game in a functional, playable state at end of life. So I hit you with a ton of bots. I hit you with a ton of exploits. I attack your community. I destroy your Reddit. I go after your business. I go everywhere that I possibly can to make this cost as much as it possibly can for you.
You can already attack companies with bots right now, and who the fuck's gonna sue you if the company is dead? Plus, that's already illegal. Anyone who cared about following the law, or copyright law, would not be doing it in the first place. The argument of they're gonna monetize these servers, you could already do that with a lot of different games. And you know what? People play on the non-monetized servers, so it wouldn't even make sense. What functionality are you providing by monetizing the servers? There's going to be a lot of private servers around. Who the fuck is going to play on these servers that are aggressively monetized instead of just going to the ones that are free? No one. No one's going to choose to get cucked out of their money. Maybe a very small percentage of players.
And let's say that this goes on long enough that your game dies because you can't afford it anymore, and your studio has to shut down. At end of life, you now have to release those server binaries to keep the game in a functional, playable state. At which point I take those, I create a private server, and I monetize it.
The unbelievably absurd argument that people are going to run around killing games with bots so they can monetize their own private servers, when they could already do that anyways, is absolutely ridiculous. Like, who are these people that are going to invest this much money? Also, we already have protections against this type of thing. There's DDoS protections. But, like, if this were to be a problem, this would already be happening right now.
Some people have said, well, simply don't allow monetization of the server. Well, who's going to enforce that? If you want a government initiative to enforce that, that means the government has to build a registry of all of those games and all of that intellectual property that shouldn't be monetized.
But like, there's already regulations in a ton of different markets that don't require the government to have a big list of everyone who's in that market. You can make this argument for literally all copyright protections. The way that copyright works is if someone wants something taken down, they have to specifically request it, and then a party can take a look at it. You can bring that suit to court. The government doesn't need a big registry of everything that's copyrighted. And even if people do want to monetize these private servers, that's their own business. What if they want to release a giant expansion pack where they overhaul the game and people are really enthusiastic about it, but it costs money? I don't think that should be shut down because of this ridiculous hypothetical scenario where people are going to be destroying the game. DDoSing, already illegal, already infeasible, already protections. Downvoting the communities can already be regulated. You can already ban users spamming communities. Already potential for a lawsuit. Putting bots in the game, very easy to regulate. You can literally ban these users. And the game would have to be somehow structured in a way where bots could completely ruin it. And the developers would have to be completely incompetent on how to stop these bots, or have no interest in stopping them, which is a great argument for having private servers, by the way, if the developer doesn't care about stopping it. And once again, this is something that could already be done. It's already legal to try to destroy someone's game and hurt their business. You can already bring a lawsuit for this. So one, either these are people that don't care about following the law, in which case they would host private servers anyways. Two, these are people who do care about the law, in which case they wouldn't be trying to destroy the game even if private servers were legal. Banning private servers does not solve the problem. Banning monetization of private servers does not solve the problem. Legalizing private servers does not create the problem. All this serves to do is hurt game preservation and carry weight for people who want to screw over consumers.
On top of that, if you want to go the other route and say the company has to go and control it, well, what if the company's not around anymore? Is that just able to be monetized now?
Let's get this out of the way right now. People have reverse engineered and hosted private servers for games that do not allow that to exist. And they have even been sued by companies that don't host those games anymore. Games have also allowed people to host private servers without releasing the server binary. So the idea that this is the only way is ridiculous. It's just a lot more of a convenient way and a lot more game preservation friendly way. I'm also not for stopping the monetization of private servers, but even if you were for that, this argument doesn't make any sense. Situation A, private servers are legal, but monetization is illegal. Company dies. They can't sue, right? Okay. Situation B, private servers are legal entirely, but monetization is not. Company goes under. Who are they going to sue? Same situation applies in both scenarios. Whether it is legal to host private servers or not, if a company goes under, they can't sue you for either hosting private servers or monetizing them. The legality of private servers does not make a difference here.
Again, this was obtained through abuse of the original creator. I don't think that's a good route. And this scenario gets even worse if you do allow monetization. Because now I can just kill off your company and then monetize the server and no one will ever come after me.
Which the same exact logic would apply if you killed the company. No one would come after you even if it was illegal because you've killed off the company. Once again, the factor of private servers or monetization being legal or illegal doesn't make a difference to people who are not following the law and in the case that the company goes under.
So in the most extreme, people said live service games shouldn't exist at all and the initiative will kill them off for good and that's a good thing. Well, you don't get to define what players get to play or not play.
That's a great argument, Thor. People should not be in charge of deciding what games you can play and not play. In the same exact way that if I want to play a multiplayer game that's been shut down, even if it has dead servers, I should be allowed to do that. Which completely invalidates your previous argument about it not preserving the experience and saying that we should just throw it away in that case. But the people who are saying this are probably engaging in hyperbole because they're tired of unfinished, unpolished, aggressively monetized trash being thrown out and then dying a year later. And yeah, the games industry would objectively probably be in a better place if there were no live service games, if this model never took off. But obviously, I'm not in favor of banning those games, and I don't think most people are either. And we've already established that this initiative wouldn't kill those games.
I like live service games. I enjoy playing things like Final Fantasy XIV. I enjoy going and playing in games in the past, at least, like League of Legends.
I absolutely love that he brought up League of Legends, because League of Legends is the perfect example of a game that I would fucking kill to play an older patch of that game before they ruined it with the bloat of a million fucking champions that do nothing to enhance the experience. The amount of people that would play on private servers of that game of old patches would be insane. Someone was actually working on a project for you to do that, and Riot shut it down. The fact that Riot is scared of competing with older versions of their game because they know their game has been made shittier over time is the exact reason that initiatives like this need to exist. The fact that the game is a fundamentally different game than when it was played in the past and you have no option to go back because of draconian copyright laws is fucking ridiculous.
The next one is that this is about games preservation and that it needs to happen to preserve these types of games for future generations and for everyone to always have forever. But I would argue that this isn't actually preserving these games. Social games, such as, let's say, Apex Legends, require a number of players to be in the match at the same time so that you can have an experience that is only able to be obtained through lots of players interacting, right? It's a multiplayer game. You need a bunch of people. How many of you have felt negatively when an MMO dies? Or when a live service game dies? Oh, dead game.
You know, that's a great point, Thor. I feel pretty bad when an MMO or live service game dies. But you know what I feel worse about? When the game is literally incapable of being played anymore. I think that makes me feel a little worse than the game having a low player count.
There's only 5 people online. Why would I play that? So why would you want to preserve a game in that state? That doesn't make any sense to me. Well, you don't get to define what players get to play or not play. You also shouldn't be able to get to define what developers build or don't build. You should not have creative control over the developers, and you should not have control over what is in my Steam library or on my phone.
I mean, that says it all. He literally contradicted himself 30 seconds earlier. You don't get to decide what type of game experience I like. If I want to play a dead game with low player count, then let me play a dead game with a low player count. Let me play on a private server. You don't get to decide what games I like to play or don't play. You don't get to decide what's in my Steam library and what's not in my Steam library. I mean, that shows a lot about the consistency of this motherfucker's arguments, carrying weight and bootlicking for developers. Which I guess isn't even fair, because really he's just protecting his own interests as a developer. But even on a surface level, the idea that having a game that is completely unplayable, that doesn't exist anymore, is somehow a better outcome than playing a game with a low player count is the dumbest argumentation I've ever heard in my life. It is clearly a biased argument meant to make this initiative look bad.
You're not bringing it back at its height. You're not taking a snapshot of what the game actually is. You're making it limp on in a way that doesn't make any sense. Well, you don't get to define what players get to play or not play. You should not have control over what is in my Steam library or on my phone. That's not preservation. And for those that may stop there and go, but private server's going to have a lot of players. Look at all the ones for World of Warcraft. Again, we talked about that. It opens up a route for abuse of the developers.
Even if we completely ignore the absurdity of the argument that somehow they're going to be botted out of existence and people are going to use that as an opportunity to host monetized private servers, which has not been established whatsoever and has been clearly debunked, that still would not be an argument for low player counts. You bring up the example of World of Warcraft private servers. The counter argument to your argument that private servers would be dead is World of Warcraft, because those servers are not dead. You do not debunk this argument. You say, well, it's going to hurt developers. That does not address the point of the servers being dead. That is a complete non sequitur argument for a completely different topic, which has been clearly debunked. Also, Blizzard seems to be completely fine. They seem to be making money off of World of Warcraft, and a lot of the players who play World of Warcraft are complaining about the fact that recent updates have ruined the game. So those people actually have an option to play on a private server. That is perfect. The game is still healthy, the game is still existent, the game is still making money, but people who do not want to play the newest content play on private servers. That is the perfect system. World of Warcraft is the perfect defeater of your argument. The game isn't being botted out of existence. I know it has a bot problem, but people still play retail WoW. The game is still existent. There's still plenty of retail WoW players, but the private servers still have a high player count. And those private servers are arguably responsible for something that people really liked, which is classic WoW. It is insane how you brought up the perfect counterargument in every single aspect to what you're arguing for. And with that, I think I'm done. It's complete bias. He has no real arguments. He contradicts himself 60 seconds in between saying one thing and saying the other. He brought up the perfect counterexample to all of his arguments, which is classic WoW. I love that he brought up the League of Legends example, and this whole video is a complete failure and a complete demonstration of why we need this initiative. If this is the best counterarguments that these people have, then send it through right now.